Wonderful. So I will, before I call us to order, I would like to acknowledge that we're meeting and our neighborhoods are situated on the traditional and ancestral territories of the Musqueam people. And I also want to just note that nobody has in advance declared a conflict of interest or potential or perceived conflict of interest. Or would anyone like to raise a possible conflict of interest at this time? Okay, not hearing any, we'll move on to approval of the agenda, and I'll move that the board approve the December 16th, 2025 open session agenda as circulated, seconded by Jake. All in favor? Okay, motion carries. Thank you. And then I'll move that the board approve the November 18th, 2025 seconded by Ron. This is on the minutes. So Carol, before we vote on the minutes, Carol has either a question or a.
Thanks, Eagle. It's a question. I wasn't here at the last board meeting, and I looked at the minutes. I just wanted clarification from staff if under E, external reports and presentations, Carol sends regrets a report was.
Actually like to ask that we amend the minutes just to note that Carol sends regrets, but that there was a report included in the package. I think that's just a way uncertainty there. So with that amendment of the minutes, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. All right, so and that takes us right on to the Campus and Community Planning Monthly Report. And so we'll turn things over to Carol in person to just say a few words about the report.
Thanks, Eagle. The report is before you. It's a pretty short one this month. I'm happy to answer any questions or take questions back to the team if there are any.
Okay, are there any questions on the relatively short Campus Planning Report, which I think highlights some holiday-related closures and whatnot? Yeah, Michael.
I guess it's more of a, in terms of, we get these reports, we look over them, and then we approve them. But I guess we overlooked the closure of the street for the winter festivities. Is that correct? Because I feel as though UNA didn't know about the festivities. I mean, necessarily, like there was a communication issue there. Is that correct?
Maybe, yeah, maybe Paul can speak to that. That was a UBC Properties Trust organized event.
Yeah, it's a UBC Properties Trust organized event. Staff were aware of the closure. Mm-hmm. The information that was provided to our group, but fortunately it fell in the inbox while someone was away and didn't get followed at the time for it to go out in advance of the event. As soon as we realized that we made efforts to make sure that it was out on social media and on the website, and a extra newsletter was sent out as well to the community. Unusual for that to happen, but it didn't.
But that wasn't part of the permitting that was in your package? No, okay.
No, they're so I don't know if you want me to. So Campus Community Planning in their report, they do note development permits that are issued, like applications as well as approvals of those development permits. So in this case, there was a development permit for the temporary tents and road closure, and actually that's in this month's report. It's really just reporting that outcome of a development permit process. So that it's not equivalent to announcing an event that's going to go on, because that was not your event.
That's correct. And the development permit would have been issued after coordination with PPC Properties Trust and UNA on the event.
Okay, are there any further questions related to the campus committee planning report? Okay, and I am going to just on an ad hoc basis, sorry, it's not there, but normally or often we have an electoral area A report, sometimes we don't. I just wanted to follow up, there was a question last month relating to electoral area A, and I just wanted to report back that I corresponded with with Janet Cutchin, the representative of electoral area A, in particular related to forest management and fire management in the parks. This is a question that Ron raised and one I think is definitely on all of our minds. And she has an inquiry in with Metro Parks, so that's how she framed it. And it's one of those things she's going to push to try to get a response from them because she hadn't by yesterday. So she, and either through me or directly to us, will provide an update in answer to the question that Ron raised at the last meeting. So thank you for keeping that on the agenda, so to speak. With that, we'll move to reports. The December management report, and we'll start out with Paul, the CAO's report.
Yeah, thank you very much. It is the typical report from myself in terms of activities I'm cleaning up. At this point, I think we'll leave it at that unless there's questions from members or any additional information or clarifications necessary.
I'm looking at page 11 of the material, or page 2 of the 16 of the reports. Under risk management, Paul, do you keep a memos to file on all these meetings and what was discussed?
Not formally. They're generally not. They're not formal meetings typically. There's obviously I keep notes for myself. Those notes are contained in a book that is in my office, but there's not like an inventory of the discussions, or these aren't meetings where there's necessary directions from them. But if you have specific questions about particular discussions that happens to shed some light on those discussions.
Sandy.
Yeah, page 2 of the 16, community relations. Or you attended the UBC Campus of Care Service Navigation Task Force. Could you please give us some explanation about this task force? Thank you.
Yeah, I had mentioned this in the last board meeting in the manager's report. This was a task force that was established by the campus community of care. So there's a new clinic being opened in the Gateway building. And there's a task force that was established with representation really across campus to begin to develop a communication plan to ensure that residents and students, faculty become aware of the clinic as it heads toward the building, which is next year. But they're starting on this communications plan. So I've participated in those discussions and brought forward I think the interest that the boards has expressed in those earlier discussions around essential services in the community, how important it is to make sure that residents are aware of this. There'll be much more information coming forward to the community as they both fully develop the plan. I'm not involved in the development of the actual materials that's done internally at the UBC, but bringing a UNA lens to the conversation.
Follow up on that, Sandy?
Following this question, about the UBC campus of care, I think not only about this clinic opens, it's broad. Recently, the task force is clinic open, but for the campus of care, UBC, what that is scope? Thank you.
That's something that I would better follow up with UBC for them to express to the board what the overall campus of care program is. This is my involvement. It's been very specific to the teaching and service clinic that will open as part of the Gateway, which is part of their campus of care.
So this is not a full answer, Sandy, but with the opening of the Gateway building, a lot of UBC health-related services are being consolidated, if I'm understanding correctly. And these, so it includes, student health, right? Counseling services, and other student health. So there's both a community clinic, and that's the one I think, Paul, that the community clinic is going to be open to residents and beyond.
Yes.
Yeah, and beyond, residents and beyond, so everyone who lives out here. And then there are very specific health-related services that are for UBC students, potentially faculty and staff as well. Does that sound right to you, Michael, like in terms of your understanding being a?
Oh, I've never used it.
Yeah.
My student.
Yeah.
I still have my wife.
Yeah, so there is a lot going on, but in terms of what's pertinent to the residents, it seems like it's this particular clinic.
And I would add, and I think I mentioned this when mentioned that this was potentially starting my last reporting. I did discuss with BBC folks about a number of them, some of them representatives from this group coming to the UNA board to provide a bit of a presentation and overview. Really, frankly, for information of residents more than anything else. They're not quite ready for that, but as they get closer to the opening of this and finalization of some of the other consolidations we were talking about, there'll be that opportunity, and also we make that available.
I think that would be great, and I suspect that when they're ready anyway, they'll find that's in their interest as well. Yeah, so we can look forward, I hope, to a presentation from them in the not too distant future. Michael?
Yeah, Paul, thanks for all that. I just wanted to ask, I read in the Campus Resident that the community center is opening up at Lilem, or I guess it's planned on being opening, but they're still in negotiation. I'm just wondering if you had any insight into that?
No, don't have any insight. We have reached out at various times to the management of UAL about that facility when it was being planned, when it was under construction last 6 months or so. They've entered into negotiations with some unnamed party. Seems that the opening has been delayed on a couple of different occasions for reasons known to anyone other than those directly involved. But once it's open and operation, we certainly have an interest in sharing opportunities for programming or whatever the case may be to provide additional services, both to the local community and to UNA residents.
Other questions on the CAO report? Okay, so we'll move on to the communications report and London.
Thank you, Eagle. Just something additional just to add some more context to the campus rather than add revenue table at the very end of my report. The numbers there are the numbers indicated there are not the same schedule as when those ads potentially appear. Does that make sense? Basically, what's reflected is our revenue when we collect it, not necessarily when the ads appear on paper. So just as clarification there. I'm happy to answer any other questions.
Jake.
Hi, thanks for the report. And a couple of questions. The report is descriptive, and I know you've talked about some metrics before, and I won't ask you to share any right now that you might have, but can you look at possibly just sharing some high-level metrics next time that might be of interest to some of us?
Yeah, of course. We can do that on the quarterly when we do all the metric sharing.
Yeah, okay, thanks. The campus resident, you talked about campus resident, this advertising. Where, and I don't know if that's a you question or an Athena question, but where does that money actually fall in? Where does it go?
It's encrypted in our revenue. Definitely in, how do I explain? Yeah, it's part of the miscellaneous and revenue included.
Okay, so it goes into the revenue. It's not just we get this in and we'll use it.
No, it's included in our revenue. Yes.
And thanks for jumping on the Christmas Village thing. I know I raised that red flag as soon as I walked into the roadblock. So, but thanks for jumping into that.
Yeah, and maybe some additional context to that as well. Typically, when we get these alerts from UBC, we get them separately coming to us as an event promotional alert for us to share. And then we get a separate one that is for road closure that's related to the event. So we didn't get the second one. So we have been promoting the event on the newsletter because to us it was as usual, right? Like when they send these events, we promote them. But I think the second kind of level of, I guess, reading between the lines that we didn't do was that we should have looked at that diagram and we should have said, okay, this is going to cause some issues. And unfortunately, that's what wasn't caught. Yeah. So, but it was just one of those things. It was a different process than what typically comes to us. And then also kind of the perfect storm of the person who should have been looking at it closer, not being around. So that's just that.
Yeah, just some follow-up, and I questioned, sent an email to Emmanuel as well, the campus resident asking, like, I think it was a real missed opportunity to promote, and I don't know where that fault lies, and right now it doesn't matter, but I think it's a real missed opportunity. I think the idea is great with the village and, you know, what in the square there, but, you know, in the campus resident, there was zero mention in the December issue, and there really should be. I mean, it's a great event that, you know, all the people of, you know, between the UNA and UBC and UEL and all that could come to make it, you know, more successful, because sometimes you can fire a cannon and not hit anybody in there, but it's a great idea. And this extra little thing I think was more accepted than, you know, even the huts that are there. And also from, you know, communication side and that I think it's a missed opportunity.
And we did some extra context there as well. We keep close communications with other agencies and our partners, but we don't typically chase them for their events. They come to us to help promotion. In this particular instance, they got us the notice the day that Campus Resident was publishing. So there was no way it was going to make it into the paper. We could have been maybe proactive if we knew it was going to happen, but this is again like Campus, like Properties Trust is kind of ramping up all of their events because they're building new stuff, right? Mm-hmm. So last year didn't have a market this year, so we didn't know how to anticipate that.
And this may not be the right context for this, but I have noticed that UBC, whether it's campus community planning or theater or whatever, they have been buying some ads in the campus residence to promote events, and perhaps again maybe another context for fully exploring this, but perhaps UBC Properties Trust could be encouraged to make more use of the campus residents to promote their events. You know, it's an opportunity for them, but they also have to have a certain amount of initiative or at least the approach to create that relationship. Michael?
I actually want to follow up on that because Glenda, I don't think that this is a UNA communications problem. Like David, this is a UBC PT issue. This really should have been communicated a lot earlier. I would love it if I was there with my kids. They loved the event. We didn't know about it till we saw it. And it was a missed opportunity, I think, on Properties Trust part to communicate to the UNA, but also like these types of events that occur when they occur without the consultation of UNA and participants within the community, it actually feels more like an insult than it does like a benefit or something to the community. Because like there were 2 Santa Clauses on Saturday, one that was sponsored by the UNA and one that was sponsored by PT. There shouldn't be 2 Santa Clauses on campus. That's just like, that's a basic rule of Christmas. So anyway, I just think that this is a big, I think like if PT is going to be throwing these big events for the community, we really need a little bit more heads up here.
Hold on, and David, you.
I just was gonna just say thanks for that feedback, Michael. I don't actually work for UBC Properties.
Oh, sorry.
I know them well, and I'm happy to convey.
Somebody does, right?
I'm happy to convey. I'm happy to convey that feedback to my good friends there, and it's well taken. I just also hope those Santas were paid equitably.
Sorry, could I follow up just briefly, and then we'll turn to you, Ron? This is also something, I don't think we need a motion, but I think, you know, what we're hearing is that communications, we might reach out to Properties Trust and say, hey, like you're missing, you know, some opportunities. We've got so much, you know, interest in events like this, and to just urge them on. And so it's not a criticism of all of our communications, but rather, you know, a little nudge to Properties Trust to, well, take advantage of the opportunities that are here for promoting these events that are aimed ultimately at, you know, residents and you know, shoppers, residents around the area. Ron?
Glenda, I'd like to congratulate you and campus resident people for getting the ad revenue up significantly in the last year. But my question is, have we ever thought of approaching some of the corporate entities in UNA for some sort of sponsorship on an annual basis, like Save On or Lala, Shoppers Trust people? Usually they do this with a lot of local papers where they have a big presence in the media so much a year.
Maybe I'm not the best person to answer the question because I'm not part of the newspaper editorial committee. And just so you know, the newspaper editorial committee is also responsible for the types of ads that appear on our paper. From discussions in the past with the editor, what has been conveyed to me is that there is a lot of interest and discussion at the table about advertising, particularly whether or not it's a public service, if they're doing it as public service, because of course advertising businesses is good for everybody. It's good for the business, it's good for folks in the neighborhood. But at the same time, like they have to balance it with content, right? Make sure, because it's real estate, right? So are we going to sink at a newspaper space into advertising, or are we going to allot that to news stories? I think there's a bit of conversation still to be had about where that balance lies, and I think the newspaper editorial committee can maybe give. I don't know if you guys have some context to give.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the chair of the newspaper editorial committee, and I feel comfortable just reporting briefly that the newspaper editorial committee, led by the editor, who's over here reporting on the meeting, I just don't have to ignore that fact, has developed an advertising policy, and there are, so it affects like how much advertising on a given page, right? It's content balance, the amount of advertising, so that's part of it. The rates are part of it, and then the question is of what kind of advertising it is, and there was universal agreement on the newspaper editorial committee that the advertising should be relevant to residents, like that is not generic, but that it should have something to do with, local services, local events, this kind of thing. They still get charged, they're charged in advertising rate. It's not a pro bono thing, but just in terms of, how we prioritize what kind of advertising goes in. So, the expansion of advertising is, as you can see from the report there, which represents, last several months, the advertising space, the number of ads and the space devoted to advertising has been increasing. And the question is, when it gets to the point, as it might soon, that it's, I forget the percentage of a page or of an issue that is advertising, then you expand the size of the issue from 8 pages to 12 pages. So there are like some kind of complicated discussions, determinations that have to go on in terms of getting the balance in advertising and content right. I'd probably give you way more than you want or need, but certainly the newspaper editorial committee has been working on this issue, and beyond right, also agree that advertising, local advertising, is good for a community in a sense, and so it's a value even beyond the revenue.
Just one follow-up. It's just that you feel a point that I've experienced in the past. When you have somebody gives you an annual sponsorship, it allows you to produce a bigger fee. I don't know, I think somebody's got a big one. If you were to say, $10,000 a year, just put a banner in there that says, Save-On supports this community, by this, then it gives you the ability to add more content.
Thank you.
I mean, I don't want to prolong the discussion too much, but it's a bit different, the structure that we do with our revenue, right? Because it doesn't necessarily go directly to the newspaper's budget. It just goes into a general bucket of revenue for the UNA, and the allocation for the budget lies on your hands still, right? When you approve the budget of it year to year. So just something to think about.
Okay, are there any other questions on newspaper or other communications? Yes, Sandy?
Okay. On page 4, 16, there is a coordinated with campus community planning for engagement strategies to promote retrofits. I want to know what that means.
Yeah, so we've been contacted by campus and community planning to talk about some of the goals that are related to NCAP, and one of the goals that they have outlined there is promoting retrofits for heating and buildings. So we're in very, very, very initial conversations about a communication strategy for us to assist them in disseminating information about this. I don't have information and particularly the details of what retrofits are, but we'll be helping disseminate the information.
Carol?
Yeah, Glenda's right that this is one of the actions that are outlined in the Neighborhood Climate Action Plan. And it's around supporting and streamlining and making it easier for residents to retrofit with heat pumps for more energy efficiency measures. And so the work is around making sure that residents are aware of the options available to them.
It's good for residents.
Yeah.
It's not regarding noise, buildings, others. It's for
Correct.
Yeah.
Jacob?
Heat pumps and that are a great idea, but aren't the condo stratas going to have the first say before residents have any say in this?
Yes, for sure, Jake, and like the communication strategy involves communicating with stratas. And actually, that's basically, that's the main kind of puzzle we're trying to solve, is to how to get that information.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, because I know in our strata, all the residents would want to put in heat pumps, but the strata is the first one to raise, the stop signs on that.
Other questions, that's something I'm sure we'll be hearing more about and hopefully engaging on, so it's promising that some things from the neighborhood climate action plan are moving forward, and the UNA has an important role there.
Yeah, and maybe just the local citizens community engagement advisory committee has expressed a lot of interest in strengthening relationships with Stratus. This is something that kind of potentially might dovetail into that.
Oh, yes, Ron?
I just want to add something. Carol, there's too much of an emphasis being made on heat pumps. Because that's just, in a lot of cases, they save really much more energy with natural gas. The real problem, particularly some of the older buildings, is leaking because the quality of the windows was put in 1990s, early 2000s, and very inferior. You know, they don't have any of the paint's not thick, and this is something that a few years ago, I know Fortis had some energy audits going around. And this is what we really need to do. Is we as a Stratton just going through that right now, and it looks like it's going to be $40,000 a townhouse. All our windows and everything, 75% of our loss. People can put heat pumps all they want now, but air conditioning at the end of the year, their energy bills not going to change much.
We'll count that as noted, and also note that the neighborhood climate action plan has a whole lot tied up in it. So more than just installing heat pumps, but things related to the efficiency of houses. But that's stuff that probably the land use advisory committee and UNA staff and ultimately the UNA board will be hearing more about in the years to come, which is good. So, all right. Thank you, Glenda. And moving on to the recreation report, Dave.
Good evening. In front of you, as submitted, just a couple of highlights to throw out. Our Christmas Wonderland was successful again this year, held this last Saturday, despite two Santas on campus. And I agree there needs to be better communication in that area. And then I just wanted to identify, we just completed our registration, and probably the most notable thing was, which is also the same amount of complaints, pickleball sold out in 30 seconds. So people were voting.
It's on track with piano lessons.
901 wanting to know why they couldn't get in pickleball. So
Charge more, charge more.
My wife had her finger on the trigger for the pickleball sign up and asked why she doesn't get special consideration because no, she did not. But I think she got in. Okay, yeah, questions on the recreation report, Sandy?
Yeah, page 5 on the 16 package. At end is a UNA card and registration, and later on some new clients, UNA discounts, parking permits. And so the trend is all decline. Do we know any reason here? Thank you.
Yeah, I can answer that. It was November. We tend to see a decline in November from our other months. What we've done is we've improved our system. So we now sort of have narrowed our window as to when we're offering a lot of our stuff. So as you'll see, when we provide the metric report in February for the Q3, we'll be able to show you where that falls. So that there's highlights at other months, such as September and October, before we're seeing November, where in the past was spread out fairly well.
Could I, following up on that, Dave, I'm wondering, given that we've now moved to the quarterly or seasonal reporting, where you can see the trends or the full picture, I guess you could say, trends and metrics. I'm wondering about what you decided to retain in your reporting in the monthly meetings. And I'm not making a commentary on it. I'm just kind of curious if I know you dropped some things because the reports were not all that useful in the monthly form, right? And I'm wondering if there are others that you've given consideration to just shifting entirely to that quarterly report.
Yep, good question. So staff has been informed when they're reporting from their various sub-departments
to focus first on what are the highlights, the things that are mostly importantly engagement within the community. When they get into items such as our facilities types, when we get into these things such as the discounts and stuff, they will provide some metrics. But I do not restrict, but I sort of inform them that it's more important that we're looking at the metrics overall for the whole period of time, because it does create a bit of a false picture. Things that we're also doing is I've been listening to needs, various board members who sort of said, hey, what about this information? And also when we're talking about the community and the staff, of what they sort of feel is a big piece that they want to make sure that is out there, is known. So that becomes more of our monthly highlight package, whereas the seasonal package is a little bit more drier and then just literally numbers.
Great, thanks, that's helpful. It's the highlight, explanation. So, are there other questions? Yeah, Jacob.
Yeah, good reporting and lots of metrics to keep those people that are interested in numbers busy. If I've asked this question before, I apologize, but have you looked, or do we know what programs are profitable, cost neutral, or subsidized?
Yes, and if you'd like, we can provide that in the seasonal report.
Yeah, that would be great, I think,
Okay.
at that time.
Certainly, I'll make note of it. Thank you.
And it's not to say that, okay, we got to pull all the subsidized, because I think all the programs are great, but you should know that these things are costing you extra, because sometimes those are even more valuable than the ones that make the money, so.
Certainly, yes.
Any other questions on the recreation report? Sandy?
Regarding these programs, do we have these statistics on how on the programs? I know pickleball is fully booked. Do we have what the programs calculation? Some perhaps fully booked, some perhaps not have booked. Do we have that kind of numbers? The question is, I want to know the space. The space is here. Some spaces is vacant, but we provide many programs. Why we provide so many programs and the space is vacant? So I want to know the rate, perhaps. Do you understand? Thank you.
Dave?
Yeah, I can answer that for you. So just that kind of falls into two areas. I'm happy to provide that in the detailed report going forward. We can provide registration numbers for all of our programs. We can also provide the scheduling of our programs. And what you'll find is that the bulk of all of our programs take place during what is peak times, which is the after school period, straight through until the evening. So we do see some rooms that are empty during the day. Most of them are used for educational classes, seniors groups, ESL, those type of things. But we can certainly do a cross-reference for you. That's not a problem.
Okay. Any others? Okay, I think with that, then we'll move on to operations and sustainability.
Thank you very much, Eagles. Good evening, everyone, and the report is in front of you. Happy to answer any questions. I will highlight two items there. For sustainability, Sylvia course is almost completing the first 3 months in the UNA. So you will notice that there is increasing interaction and activities in the sustainability session, which are grateful to see. And one item that we'd like to mention is we are at the process of reviewing our sustainability sessions to see how we can improve the NCAP information so that it's more available and easily defined for our residents and strata to learn more about retrofit programs and things along that line. And another item that I would like to highlight is the UNA Municipal Service Ticketing System, the 311 updates. In terms of the system, I provided a very high level workflow in the tables and also a map and also a screenshot of what the movement program will look like. The key, maybe a short takeaway of the system is intended to provide a online portal for residents to submit municipal service ticket and then enable us to make it easy to follow up and address the issue in a streamlined way. It does not just restricted the service ticket submitted from within the UNA area only. It also includes area like the MOTI, the UBC, and the UEL, and all the tickets submitted will be triaged by the UNA operations team and then forward to the appropriate contact. And having said that, I will provide a more detailed report in the January board meeting as well as a live demo. So happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Lakeland, and I'll say it's really exciting that we're moving towards the implementation of the 311 system, and I was particularly gratified, I have to say, to hear about the systematic triaging of concerns that come in, whether there are all these jurisdictions out here, right, and some even overlapping, right, and so this was a matter of considerable confusion to a lot of residents, like, who's responsible for what, right? And that's why this is so valuable. My question is, with this triaging system that's coming, are UBC Properties Trust, the Ministry of Transportation, and the UEL, are they kind of aware and ready for what will be, we don't know how many, it'll be interesting to see, but what will certainly be some concerns that get funneled their way from our system.
That's a great question, Eagle. So during the development of this project, we definitely involve our key stakeholders, UBC, municipal services, and other substitute support technique system to share what type of information system that we are rolling out. So they are fully aware of it. But having said that, for MOTI and then also for UEL, what we are going to do is this is only the first step of the 311 process. We are going to develop more automated workflow down the road for triaging. And at that point, we will fully involve with MOTI as well as UBC and UEL to determine the workflow and how the best we at the UNA will be able to monitor the workflow and help residents to address those issues. At this moment, all the triage will be done by myself and Gal, so we do have a good sense of where all the ticketing is going, and because we have existing relationship with all stakeholders already.
Okay, so it's really just it's a matter of workflow that you'll, but almost certainly that these jurisdictions are aware that you will be routing concerns that are relevant to them, and hopefully they'll respond. Okay, Ron?
Well, just one presentation I have. C plus CP has granted a permit to property trust to remove trees in front of Sandburn. That's going to be done between Christmas and New Year's. Have we got a communication plan going out to people? Have we got an email or something?
Thank you, Rob. So in terms of the communication plan, we typically for tree removal, we will rely on UBC campus planning to provide the tree removal notifications to us. So we are just backtrack a little bit for context. We did remove the UNA did remove a few trees a few years back in Roto. So typical workflow is when we apply for a tree removal permit, CNCP will provide a notification board, the PDF, and also instructions of where to set up the notification board and also communication with the nearby residents. So I guess at this point, we are waiting for the formal communications plan coming from CNCP, and then we will distribute the information to the nearby site.
Just a couple of other questions here. You retain Paris space next summer to treat the trees with these remissive tree acid. Do you have a code
on how much you're charging for that?
We don't, we are in the process of acquiring the quote, and on top of it, we are also requesting a quote from other service provider at the same time.
Okay, Jake?
Yeah, thanks, Raglan. On the school route safety review, great initiative. Who initiated this initiative and what's the overarching objective?
Thank you, Jake. So the initiative is more of a follow-up with the walking, sorry, I forgot the name of that walking visit with UBC campus planning. Workshop, sorry. The workshop happened earlier last month. So within that workshop, you have UBC representative, our the UX representative, which we highlight a few safety issues, especially around the school route. And then basically what it's a follow-up based on that meeting with information that I was able to collect from the workshop and the concerns, reaching out to UBC transportation, as well as based on that, we are able to get the school route and then we'll focus on how to enhance those type of safety issue or find enhancement from road marking, for example. So it's a follow-up on that.
I'm sorry. Just to follow up on that, I really love the initiative, Wakeland. Thank you very much. At some point, would you be reporting back to the LUAC with that?
Yeah, happy to bring it back to LUAC once we have inventorized all the enhancement and update that we can think of.
Amazing, thank you.
That was just the most productive workshop, I gotta say. So great work.
For the synergy.
Synergy, yeah.
The co-creation as well? I don't know.
Sandy.
Yeah, still the question on this workflow overview request to resolution. I understand that UNA is responsible for intaking the request from UEL, not only UNA, but also UBC, UEL, and the MOTL. Wondering, do they pay us since we do some administration thing, right?
Yeah, good question. Unfortunately, we don't get paid for that. It's more of a service that we provide to the community, and especially when the community, sometimes they do struggle to understand where about the jurisdiction is. And then with us, the ability of knowing where and the issue to go to directly, that will streamline and shorten the ticket and address it in a faster manner.
I'm just guessing, it's a guess that there will be more requests from UNA residents that actually apply outside of the UNA jurisdiction, as opposed to the other way around, people from outside the jurisdiction who submit concerns. But you know, that probably is something we'll end up exploring in more detail. I think you said in January, there's going to be a fuller report on the 311 system. Yeah, Sandy.
So this ticket system is called 311, which means three.
Look on your phone, it's got 311.
Maybe I'll just jump in. A 311 system, we actually call it the 311 name from City of Vancouver, which is their online municipal ticketing system. But at the same time, internally, we are figuring out good names for our own 311 system. So we should be able to provide the more formal name of the general report.
If you dial 311 here on campus, will it go to you? No, it's just a name only.
It won't be called 311 at the end of the day. It's
Gotcha.
an internal name that we nicknamed it 311 because that was kind of what the purpose was of it, centralizing it. It will likely be called UNA Help.
Okay. All right, then moving on to finance report. Athena.
Good evening, directors. My report is before you. Since two of the items I mentioned here will be on the agenda later on, so I will elaborate more later on the evening. But I think one thing I do wanted to confirm is like, since I don't hear from all of you, I believe all of you have received your stipend payment by now, and that might be all expended for Christmas present. If you have any issue, please feel free to contact me. Just to remind you, in regard to your T4, it will be available. The deadline, it will be the end of February. So I try to kind of produce it a little bit earlier, but if you don't get it by the end of February, do contact me. There probably you just missed the login or something, but definitely it will be available before that. Feel free to have any questions for me.
Questions? Holiday shopping advice? Ron?
Athena, page 24, currently, we're going to do this renewed benefit insurance plan. And This was provided with a report in December. Will we get one in December or?
You already get it. It's in the closed session. We will talk about it later on.
Okay, any other very specific to this finance report? I know that Athena will be back with us in a little bit to talk about the budget. Okay, not hearing any. The next item on the agenda is the Neighbors Fund and Audit Process Report. And just before I turn things over to Paul to introduce this report, I want to note that really for process reasons, I would say there's also an item under new business, and this involves the Neighbors Fund audit process as well, and it includes some materials introduced by Jake and a possible motion that's listed. And I just wanted to note that should, through the course of discussion, board members feel it appropriate to make a motion, it could be the motion that is listed there, Jake, that you had recommended. It is fine to do that under this current agenda item. In other words, it's possible for us to make motions at any point. So the reason that it was separated out like that was more of a process reason. It's not to say that that you need to hold the motion until later in the agenda. So any questions about that before I turn things over to Paul to introduce his report? Okay, Paul.
Thank you very much. So the report just really outlines the background and context to the discussion that's been happening primarily at the Finance and Audit Committee, but also I think amongst directors through emails regarding the Neighbors Fund and the audit process for that. So it outlines the responsibilities, who's responsible for what, where the Neighbors Fund kind of comes from, fundamentally based on the leases for the land that all residential properties sit on in the UNA. And it ends with this reaching out conversation that I had with, on behalf of the board interest, or the committee interests with UBC about participation in the Neighbors Fund audit process, because the report outlines the Neighbors Fund is very much a UBC responsibility, and the audit is therefore their financial responsibility. But there has been this interest in the UNA having some participation in that process. So as I outlined in the report, I think verbally, there's been a commitment that UBC prepared to have UNA staff engaged in the process. And that's, I think, all of this report is providing for information that may be specific information that board members might want to take. Happy to.
Okay, Jake.
Yeah, just I guess a comment that looks like UBC is committing to really, it's only an informal UNA participation. There's no binding mechanism to do that. They're just saying, here's the meeting, show up, basically.
We haven't had a specific discussion of exactly how the process might work. There is no binding legal or contractual requirement for the UNA to participate in that audit. It is a Board of Governors' financial responsibility fundamentally. But as I said, I think UBC is open to that participation. Obviously, that would be by our finance manager. But we can certainly, if this is the direction that the board are moving forward on, we can certainly have those conversations with UBC and report back to board on what type of structure, like specifically.
Okay.
So this be the right time to introduce that motion then maybe?
Yeah, so I'll first of all just call, are there any further questions or comments, and including from the UBC representatives here? Do you wish to speak to the report before Jane introduces the motion?
Maybe just, I'll say a few things.
Okay.
So UBC is not directly involved in the audit, so we purposely use a third-party external auditing firm to do the audit on behalf of UBC, and UBC provides materials to the auditors. The process is expected to remain independent following auditing best practices, but in discussions with Paul bringing forward the UNA's interest, if UNA wants to be engaged with UBC in review of those materials and being part of that process, then we will. However you will.
So if there are no other specific questions or comments, I think Jake did that. Feel free to go ahead with the motion.
Okay, I'd like to make the motion that the board requests UBC to provide for UNA participation during future annual audit reviews of the Neighbors Fund conducted by appointees of UBC.
Is there a second? Seconded by Ron. Discussion?
Did you say appointees by UBC or did you mean?
By UBC. No, by UBC. Because we're not going to be able to appoint the auditor. It's an independent.
Oh, no. I meant, I thought you meant for the people who would be.
No. This is the independent auditor.
Myers Penny.
Okay, are there other questions, clarifications? Yeah, Michael?
I guess my question is, in terms of participation, could we be a little bit more clear? Are we talking about UNA staff participation? Or are we talking about board, community? What are we talking about?
Staff.
Staff. Okay, so this is actually putting on like an additional.
That person over there against the wall there. If you want to know who, there.
I'm concerned that this puts an additional responsibility onto our staff members, right? Yeah.
Can I ask, I'm not sure if I would address this question to you or directly to Athena about the estimated staff time that might be involved with this?
I think I'm comfortable to that. The reason is behind the scene, I think UBC staff can testify with me. I think we kind of work closely throughout the whole year, looking at different number. But in terms of specific calculation, and then bring it to the auditor, so that because that is completely their book, so that's why that part I'm not involved. I have not been involved. But it seems that those scope, I think I can kind of work with them to bring it more clear. I think to my desk, I think that's not an issue for me. But I think in terms of the overall, I don't think it's a completely new thing that we need to re-engineer. I think we have done it throughout the year. It's just behind the scene, yeah.
That's helpful. I think, Michael, it's a really good question because we as a board, we do have to keep in mind, if things that we're introducing are potentially onerous and some of them have to be weighed in any case in appreciate your asking that question.
Yeah, good on that.
I think it's important that the board understands that it's really, this is a UBC responsibility and for them to do a third-party audit, and UNA's participation in the stuff will really frankly be at a sort of observer kind of level. It's not directing the audit, it's not evaluating the audit, it's really making sure that it's representative of the process more than anything else. And so we can confirm that when the audit comes forward in its final form for presentation to the community, which happens during the AGM.
So I did see Ron first and then Jake.
Okay, listen, public canvas is an idea that I brought up because we looked at last year's financial statements. There's some numbers that didn't comply with some neighbors' agreements. We had over $89,000 of GMA when the neighbors' agreements said $87,000. And these are errors that Tina can pick up. Tina, Michael, will not be keeping the books. The books are being kept by us. The auditor comes in, audits most penny. As they've gone through the audit, and the audit has to make sure they're compliant with the neighbors' agreements. And then other review meetings for major input. She's our representative, look at it and make comments and see if you feel it's in compliance. There's agreement. Additionally, our annual distribution of the levy comes out of there. So we have an interest in making sure it's properly done.
Jake.
Basically, to add to that, I think that it might lessen some of the questions because Athena will have a more direct understanding of basis of some of these numbers. She's going to ask the questions, most of the questions that we would ask, she would be asking because she already knows the questions that we ask and look at. So she's picked up on what our touch points are. So I think it might be helpful and maybe in the long run save Tina some time and angst in dealing with us and our questions.
Great. Okay. Any other questions or comments before we vote? All right, then the motion's on the table. Unless anyone requests it, I won't reread it. All in favor? All right, motion carries. Thank you. And we're now moving on to the Hampton Place Decorative Concrete Repair Project Report. And before I turn things over to Wegland to introduce this report, I just want to make a couple of notes about this. So first of all, this is really a reminder to directors that this agenda item, it deals with a specific repair and request, and we will be discussing the UNA's broader approach to road work in the closed session later this evening. And that I think I didn't communicate this clearly, but that session in closed meeting will be one without UBC representatives present because it involves some specific issues where we have an interest that is possibly distinct from UBC's. So I just wanted to kind of note that is upcoming. And what I'm going to do is, I'll turn things over to Wegland to introduce this particular report. And then after he does, rather than moving immediately into the proposed motion on this particular project, I'd like to turn us to a conversation about whether we wish to make a decision on this particular project today, or whether we'd like to defer that to a future meeting. That would, of course, take place after our internal discussions about how we deal with infrastructure replacement questions and roads in particular. And so we'll turn to that, and then once we've got clear whether we want to defer or continue, then decide what motion to consider. Hope that was clear. With that, turn things over over to, like to briefly introduce the report and go from there.
Thank you very much, Eagle. I will try to make this report brief. A little bit of the background of this report is specifically details the scope and the funding source for approval for the Hampton Place decorative concrete roadway repair project. A bit of a context of this specific roadway was originally built back in 1989 by UBC as part of the Hampton Place development. And in the past few years, we do noted there is a deterioration of the roadway conditions, and then it becomes one of our high priority that we would like to look for proper repair to address the ongoing issue. And in terms of the scope of work is to remove the entrance area, which is on the south side of Hampton Place, and then it will remove the concrete as well as we do a re for reinforced concrete walkways that has a similar design as the one on the other side. In terms of the project timeline, if it is approved, ideally is to do that in spring and summer. And then I think that I will leave the report at here and happy to answer any questions.
I have a little blood sugar moment. I was just having a tiny little snack. Apologies. So just to reiterate what I said before, we have a couple of options relating to this proposal that is before us in this project. So before we put forward a motion, I'd like for us to discuss our options and get a sense of the board's preferences on how to proceed. The first option is to defer the agenda item to likely our January meeting. The second option is to consider this particular project with the proposed funding in the motion. That is, a request would be made to withdraw the funds for the project from the Neighbors Fund, I believe it's the contingency reserve. And so if we go that route and we consider this particular project and that funding source, we could go ahead, pass a motion, and it doesn't prejudice our other discussions of infrastructure replacement. In other words, we could go ahead and do that, and it's not a problem. But certainly that's I guess open for discussion whether it makes more sense to defer consideration of the project now or to keep it moving forward at this time, understanding that it's not precedent setting. So with that, I saw Jake to start on that question.
Yeah, I'd like to propose that we defer this to really clear the discussion at the greater level than dealing with this at this point.
Other views on that question of deferral? I won't call for a motion until I have a sense of the room. So I would like to hear from, and even if if you could just each say your preference, just very briefly, that would probably be the best way to go here.
I support deferring it to the next meeting, as Jake recommended.
Okay, others?
Can I just ask your reason?
We'll discuss that in the closed session. It's a very serious thing.
Yeah, it's a good question, but I think we have to resolve the greater question about where these types of fundings and definitions and so on.
Can I ask what the implications are for that, Wegland, pushing this back by a whole month?
Thank you for checking my phone. In terms of implications, given the project is weather dependent, the project won't be taking place until spring, so it means there's no timeline implication at the moment.
Great, thank you.
Other board members, Evan, are you leaning towards one way or the other, deferring?
Yeah, my point is it's not very urgent project. We can wait until we decide.
Okay, Sandy nodding your head, similar. Okay, yeah, no, okay, so we seem to have a consensus. With that, then I'll go ahead and make the motion and we have seconded. So I move that we defer, I had a particular language for it. No, I didn't. Okay. I move that we defer this agenda item to the January meeting. Seconded by Ron. All in favor? Motion carries. Okay, thanks all, and we'll be back. The next item, sorry.
Can I just ask a question since we're going to go into closed session? The north carriage, we're dealing with the south carriage here, at the corner of Westwood. The north carriage seems to be in great shape. They're both the same age. So, and that's got 100 meter of road thickness below the pavers. And yet they're recommending go to 200 millimeters. Why do we need to go to 200 millimeters? It's worth grading the north side.
In terms of the, we did work with the contractor, the 200 millimeters will provide greater strength. And one of the main reasons that when the service provider came on site to do an assessment, they noted the thickness of the concrete was the main issue of the crack that was in that area.
Yeah, but yet the north carriage didn't crack.
I don't know. I don't have an answer for you. But having said that, the thickness has been identified as one of the main issues that caused the damage.
Okay, I think if there are further questions specific to the project, I think those can be conveyed either email or at the meeting when it comes formally to our consideration, which will be January. Moving on to item 4, it's the UNA Urban Forestry Operations Guidelines Report. And I just wanted to note that after consultation, myself as chair, board members, with UBC, with staff, we've decided to defer this agenda item to a future meeting pending consultation on the draft report with UBC. And there's, I don't believe, any need for a motion on this. If there are any questions about that decision, you're welcome to ask, but otherwise I think this will come back to us in the new year. Okay? Great. On to the budget. Just a note on process, and I had to get this clarified, and I really appreciate it, Dina, kind of cleared things up for me. I hope I've got it cleared up. So what we have today before the board is a draft of the budget, the 2026-27 budget for the board's information. It's come also to the finance committee for the finance committee's information and giving feedback. This is an opportunity for the full board to ask questions, to give input, keeping in mind that the finance committee also had a round at this. So we do not take a vote on this today. The revised budget will come to the board in January. And at that point, the board will vote on whether to advance the budget to public consultation. And I think I got a thumbs up for describing that process correctly. Thank you. So with that, I'll turn things over to Dina, and thanks for all the work everyone's done so far in this.
Yes, the budget for 2026-27 is before you. First of all, I want to thank the Finance and Audit Committee. They have spent a lot of time and thorough work in reviewing, I would say, every single line item. I think Jake can confirm that. But that being said, a few things I would like to highlight before I pass on the mic for you to ask further questions. First of all, just want to confirm one thing is to confirm what Eagle just mentioned. Yes, this is a draft. And then as the original process that I have provided in September, my goal is try to provide the available budget as early as possible for the director to review and then to provide feedback. And then the final draft, so-called quote unquote final, it will come in January. And then that draft will come will go out for public consultation. And for this year, we will add an extra procedure as what we as what the director suggested before. We'll have an open house at the end of January, which is in halfway through the public consultation is being open, and for the public to inform further about our budget. But that being said, this number throughout this time, we'll continue to work with UBC, especially for any new information we need for utility or for the Neighbors Fund, that we will continue to update those numbers. So it's not uncommon. So the draft that you see, the number will change. So I just wanted to make sure that the director is aware of that. But my goal is like try to make it stay as constant as possible unless there's new further information comes out, which for all the years I've done the project, I've done the budgeting, it has. Especially a lot of the information is released in late November and if not January. I'm not sure if you recall last year, exactly the January, the number changes. So keep that in mind. So a few things I do wanted to elaborate. First of all, I also want to say thank you so much for UBC. This year, they have done a lot of work in committing the UBC PT support way advanced than later on in the budgeting process. So for this year, we have confirmed the amount, the support for year 26-27 is 470,000. So thank you for Carol and Dave and then the UBC team. In terms of the neighbors levy, before the deduction, the neighbors levy is projected an increases. Even the City of Vancouver announced a 0% increases. So that will be the high level that we need to be acknowledged. But at the end of the day, the amount available to the UBC, because there are some calculations based on per capita. So at this draft is being presented, the net amount that we receive is lower than previous year, even though we have a slightly increase with the neighbors levy. But if the neighbors levy is increases to a level, then this number could vary. So I just wanted to, that's the second point that I wanted to make. Other than that, the budget presented is very conservative. You can see in terms of expenses and revenue in last year, effectively there's no increases. And then also we enclose is a list of projects that we actually discussed it during the budgeting process, but did not bring forward due to various reasons, especially the funding is it seems is not enough for this year. Other than that, I would like to open the floor for you to ask any question that you might have.
Thank you, Jake.
Yeah, it's not a question. It's just a comment to the rest of the board that weren't present at the Finance and Audit Committee meetings. We've had two lengthy meetings. We've asked numerous copious questions of Athena and the staff regarding the budget. So we spent a lot of time. Athena has answered them. Staff have made changes to the budget based upon requests and recommendations and so on. So yeah, we've certainly have asked a lot of questions on this, but there's always new questions. I've had my share of questions asked and answered.
Are there any other questions? I know three of you are on the finance committee, so you've already been involved in that and I attended one of those meetings as well. So I had my chance to ask some questions too. Ron?
Okay, one comment I'd like to make is that we have kind of a laundry list of projects we'd like to do, but there's no budget for it. So one of the things this finance committee is recommending is that there be a 6-month review based on September statements. And if we deem that we can project them to be some sort of a surplus, then we can come back, do the board, here, some recommendations to take some of those laundry list items and do.
And you know, to note, the last few budget actuals have resulted in surplus, right? And so I think that's a well taken point that you're moving towards a surplus after 6 months. You know, maybe opportunity to invest that potential surplus wisely for the benefit of residents and our community. Other, yeah, Michael.
Thank you for this. Really appreciate it. Great work. Just two particulars that I have questions about. One was within the disbursements that UBC is holding back for various things. It mentions that 2.38, almost 2.4 for fire, whereas Michael White just stated that it was 2.1, and that's what it was last year, 2.1. So I'm just wondering where that additional 300,000 is going. That's just the number one. And then there's just one line item I had a question about, which was it was the sewer and water charges seem to have jumped significantly in the last year. So just two questions. That's it.
Thank you for that, Michael. First of all, the fire service. So what happened is like every year, when we get the current billing from the fire, we will actually pick that number and then use that for projection. Because consistently, what they provided, it has over budget. So we actually build a little buffer in there because to make sure that we have enough money to cover. So it doesn't mean that the 2.4 is we are releasing the 2.4. It's just we have a buffer in there for us if they go beyond, which in the previous they have been. Like so, we will have the money to kind of to pay that. So
right. I guess I'm just confused because it seems like that's money that actually never makes its way to UNA. So I'm like, does it make its way to UNA if it only becomes 2.1?
Okay, so the bill actually is directly to the neighbors fund. So what happened is like UBC will inform us, and then for us, is that okay to withdraw the amount? So that money, because in the budget we withhold it, so that money never really relates to the UNA, but the money will stay in the fund. Yeah. Actually,
so can I, Michael, I had a similar question. So I think what you're asking is, if we budget like, and this is, I guess you could call this conservatively, 2.3 million, and if the fire service actual bill that gets delivered and is paid out of the neighbor's fund, let's just say it's $100,000 less.
we will have the money.
We will get the
Yes.
money.
UNA.
The UNA,
Okay.
so
That was my
then
question.
it'll be an
Thank you.
adjustment of the calculation
Okay.
of the neighbor's levy flow through
Yes.
to the organization.
That's
Right, yeah, and so
That
I
was
think
my-
that was a great question.
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Because it's just because they just literally stated before this meeting.
Yes, because if vice versa, if they are high, then we will have problem coming up with the money to pay them. So, yeah.
Paul, or no, Paul, were you, or no, Jake has a comment.
No, just to support the budgeting process, that's, good budgeting practice, especially in a line item which has got some fluctuations in the past at Finance and Audit Committee definitely support that. And because we know that if bill is less than budget, then we know that that 200 or 300 or whatever $1,000 will flow back to the UNA because all the other deductions have already been taken out. So.
Just, I had asked that second question was about the Westbrook Community Center's water and sewer that jumped significantly from last year to this year.
Yes, I think the rate we use is based on the latest utility rate that they provide. Plus, there is a little inflation or buffer rate that included. So just two things I wanted to say. First thing is like those number is not just Athena come up with number from the UNA side. So this is a precisely calculated, especially this year, is we work with Deloitte and then UBC agree and then also come up with those number. So rest assured, if there is a number that actually come up with lower than expected, the UNA will get the money. Because that's exactly what I mentioned earlier when we're talking about the fire service. I work with UBC throughout the whole year to reconcile that amount. Okay, so where we are at, okay, we get the bill now. So, and then we bill them at Q4, which will be in January, to make sure that we get exactly only the actual amount. Yep.
I got you, and that makes sense that we're looking at actuals from previous years, not budgeted numbers. So obviously the budgeted was probably higher. Just a quick clarification, again, this is maybe more for Wegland and operations, but so water and sewer, this bill is coming from UBC, and who are we paying again? Who's the utility provider?
Okay, this specific bill is from UBC Utility.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so Ron and then Jake.
Okay, Michael, just to clarify something, our fiscal year is March 31st, but these big bills don't particularly require, we don't get it to the middle of summer. And unfortunately, the utility bill doesn't coordinate with our fiscal year, okay? So there's always this reconciliation, estimate reconciled. And we just have to kind of balance the budget and keep doing it every fund year.
Jake.
Yeah, and maybe David can comment on this too. Like this charge with the sewer and water has been an issue with all stratas, and I'm sure UNA as well. Certainly, as long as I've been involved with UNA, it's been an issue. But in all my years on strata, it's always an issue as well because these charges come in and it's like pay it, and even though it jumps exorbitantly, there's no real reason given. It's just here, pay it.
Yeah, very briefly, I mean, like you, in my professional role, we're a customer of UBC Energy and Water Services, which is the name for the utility. And we too get such bills, on the timeline of others. And we too get such increases that don't always match with the projected increases that we might have anticipated. In terms of, besides sympathy and empathy, I don't want to offer, Jake, but perhaps there's some consolation in that.
I think the only thing I would add to that is I do recall that, all of those charges are largely based on charges from Metro Vancouver.
Yeah.
And that are posted from regional district and Cisco or city Vancouver, depending on the service. So both UBC and UNA are at mercy of those two organizations and their budgets and how their costs change, and we receive those costs without the ability to manage them. That's just the reality of how the services are provided so that the campus runs.
All right, are there further questions? Oh, yeah, Mike?
So more of a comment. This just sort of points out the need for, and again, this is more of an operations thing for metrics when it comes to stormwater, because we have no ability to decrease our own budgeted allotment without knowing where our stormwater is going and where the fresh water is coming from and how much we're using and where it is. And again, UBC is is in the same position here. I'm in the McMillan building in Lasaire, where they have urinals fed from a central system that is literally just full on water. If that was at any other institution with metering, that would have been replaced 20, 30 years ago. And so it's just an interesting state that we're in. And so we're paying the bills, but we have no control over the flow. And it's just a statement, but it's an interesting one.
Okay. All right. With that, then we will move on to what it turns out to be our final agenda item, and this will be a quick one, so we'll, I think, and so we'll just finish up, and that way we can break for dinner and be ready for the closed session. So the next item is the Community Engagement Advisory Committee Terms of Reference update, and should I just introduce it? It wasn't clear on the agenda. I'll introduce it because it actually relates to a bit of a mistake on my part as chair. So a few months ago, the board added a third director to the Community Engagement Advisory Committee. It's Evan, actually. And it just turns out, and we weren't aware of this at the time, or I wasn't anyway, that the terms of reference only mention 2 board directors on the Community Engagement Advisory Committee. So what we're proposing here, and I'll make the motion, is that the board approve an amendment to section 3.1 of the Community Engagement Advisory Committee Terms of Reference to reflect the addition of a third director to the committee. Is there a second for that? Seconded by Andrew. And I'm not sure if there are any questions or discussion. We can welcome it. I see this largely as a housekeeping issue, but if there's more to be said, then feel free. Okay. Oh yeah.
Just well, we recognize because we do have members here, we really appreciate those members and resident joining, but we also do have a lot of seats that's available. But I think this will be actually discussed in the next meeting once we have the November meeting minutes actually approved by the majority in our CF meeting, and then we can proceed to discuss like whether we should have like ongoing membership recruitment or like if there's like other option that we are pursuing. Yeah.
Paul?
Yeah, I think that's a good segue into, there will be reports coming in the January meeting, reappointments for chairs to committees where there's only 1-year terms, so those have to be re-upped. Yeah. And there's also expiry of committee members across the committees. Yeah. And so we do need to have some conversations. So the board needs to have some conversations about recruitment, not just for CF, which is one that Campbell's referring to, but other committees as well. And we will also have some new appointments to the new act committee as part of that. So there's a conversation, and that will be in closed session because it's part of the recruitment.
Great, yeah, thanks, Paul. That's a good reminder, and looking forward to the new year and renewal of our committees. So, all right, all in favor then of the motion to expand to 3 board members? Okay, opposed? And that motion carries. Okay, and I'll just note for process that the new business item H1 year's fund audit process was incorporated into the earlier agenda item, so that is no longer needed. And so with that, I'll move to adjournment and move that the board adjourn into a closed session to discuss matters related to discussions and dealings with other entities or individuals where disclosure of the information being discussed could be harmful to the UNA's interest, resources matters, and the approval of minutes for a closed session or restricted closed session public board meeting. And second for that. Evan, all in favor? All right, so thanks everyone. With that, the open session has ended. We will take 15 minutes for dinner and reconvene at 7:20 for the closed session.
Yeah, because you'll be in your office, right? Or, no, I'm going to go to the pharmacy. I can. You have a clock? Okay. Yeah, it's on the desk. Okay. Like, so there's a table, the round table, there's a table on the right. No, I have to get home.